So, as part of these videos I'm making, this is the second one. The first one was showing you just a little handy hint to download a YouTube fast forwarding program, a speed controller for YouTube. You might want to use it for this one too, because this video might go a little bit longer than I'd hope. So, you know, if you put it in 25% quicker, it should go 25% quicker, and you can watch the video a bit quicker. So this one's just going to be about getting your plans from your job to your to inside GardenCAD. So basically a Mudmap to GardenCAD, and how I'll, as an end user, so I'm a landscaper. I had a client who's rang me up and he's asked me to come give him a quote on some landscaping around his house in the western suburbs of Melbourne. So there's not this job here, this job's one already done. So what we're going to do, we're going to go File, New, and we're just going to go blank one, and this is where we'll start. But what I'll show you first is how I get started. So my clients ring me up, customers ring me up and said, yeah, come and give me a quote on some paving and some landscaping and concreting, in this case everything, so the whole property. It's a brand new house, and I've taken some photos of the job. First I'll show you these. I'll just rotate this around. Okay, so I just got something up there where it was. So what I usually take out to a job site is some graph paper with 1mm squares, and this is an A4 sheet on the left. And what I'm typically drawing is 1mm equals 100mm. That's my scale, so 1 to 100. If it comes out to millimeters or halfway, well, good enough is close enough in this sense. It's going to get us pretty close to what we want. It's important to draw in scale on when you're drawing out in the plan, because it helps if you do make a mistake. So I'll show you a bit about this a bit later, but it just fits the page. It will fit the page better too, and look better. So sometimes in big properties that it's not going to fit on an A4, even at 100mm squares, and you might have it calling for an A3 sheets. Now these got 2mm squares. You can probably treat them as 200mm per 200 squares. I prefer 1mm squares. I did get some A3 1mm square sheets, and a little bit hard to find actually. I think I special order them was a while ago, and I just generally use the A4 for most jobs. But you'll see there's a bit of a problem with the A4, especially if you go to a house and you've got to draw the whole thing in. So it'd be nice to get A3 sheets, but I also need an A3 clipboard sometimes, because there's normally somewhere to lean it up against to write on. So that might be something to think about. The pens, I usually use like a fine liner, uni pen fine line here, 0.1 of a mil, and this other one here is a grey lead graphite pencil. It's very, very fine, very nice, and because it's got the eraser on it, if you do make a mistake, it's easy to fix up. And these rulers are very handy too. They just keep everything straight, following the graph lines, and you could possibly take one of those radius tools out too if you wanted to. Probably too much stuff. I don't take both of these. They're just there as an example. And in fact, I usually just use the uni pen. And yeah, so that's what I'd take out with me, plus a tape measure. You can take a fiberglass tape measure with you. There's the long ones, but I find that they're hard to use by yourself, so you don't always have someone holding a tape for you. So the steel tapes are better in that sense, and you can manage them by yourself a lot easier. If you do have someone, it's a big job, then they might be calling for the fiberglass style tapes. And generally, I wouldn't take a fiberglass one unless it was a very big job. And usually a 8 to 10 meter steel tape works fine. So the house that we're working on is this one here, and this is in the western suburbs of Melbourne. New home. It's next to be rendered, and what's going to happen is, this is the brief from the client, is that he's going to want some kind of driveway here, and it's quite a steep driveway, to be honest. And it's a bit hard to tell with a 2D photo, but yeah, it's actually quite a drop through there. And it's what makes it worse is that we've got to try and line it up with this front door step somehow and make it all work. So we didn't have a dumpy or a laser level to work out the height difference at this moment. So at the moment we're just going to draw it up and give some concept ideas, and then if the client sort of wants to go ahead with it, then we'll finalise those by maybe going on a site visit and just verifying these levels and to see what we're proposing is viable. Rather than spend too much time doing it now. So there's sort of a balance between free quotes and and whether or not you're going to do a job and you want to spend too much time, you know, analysing the site, I suppose you could say. But in this case, there's a good chance we're going to get this job because they were referred to us, and that's usually a really good sign straight away. Yeah, what we're going to do here, we're going to take all the measurements from this house and we're going to put them into GardenCAD. So what I've done is I've turned up there and I've gone around the house and measured all the little, so from this corner here to there, back in the garage door, this wall, this little corner little return here, back into there, into this portico, right around, kept going right around, and it's pretty much the whole footprint of the house has been taken down by me on the A4 sheet. Now you could possibly get the client to email you a plan or something, and sometimes, you know, for the amount of time it takes you on site, I would rather just go around and measure it and be sure. But you know, get the plan if you can and check it against that. Sometimes if you want to do quick quotes, depends on the job at the end of the day as to how much effort you want to put in quoting to get the job, and whether they're paying you for a quote or how much work you're going to put into it. So putting, you know, in this case we're going to put we're going to give them a free plan sort of thing, which shouldn't take me too long to do. Might take me a bit slower doing this video, but yeah, it all comes down to, there's a few grey areas there as to how you approach this using GardenCAD and doing your quotes and the type of work you do and the areas you work in and the market area that you actually work in too. So we pretty much do everything. So and this is quite a big job, so you can spare the extra time to do a bit of a plan, and that's worth doing just to get the job. If it's that last thing that pushes you over the line, that's what GardenCAD's good for, because you can get it down quickly and get your ideas on paper. There's no confusion, people know what they're getting, they can see a nice overview. They haven't had to engage any landscape architects, and it's just the landscaper doing it from his experience, getting on paper, nothing too fancy, and yeah, it's a big help. So if you're wondering, I'm viewing images in this program here called Infran View. It's free. It sort of sits somewhere between you know, your free Windows picture viewer. It comes with Windows 10 and sort of Photoshop or GIMP, which I'll talk about in another video regarding some colours and that. So that's the house, and I went there, I measured it up, and they only give me a hand to hold the tape, which is always helpful if you can get someone. And I'll just take you through the photos of the house first. So that was one photo. This is the portico sort of area there, where the front entrance is. This is the side of the house. So there's a proposed concrete path coming all the way up the sideway there. And this is the rear of the house. We've got an alfresco area. You can see my tape there, and that. And this alfresco area is proposed maybe decking. I'm suggesting that they use say granite or bluestone tiles here. And the reason for this is that they do eventually want to put it sort of sparring or something like that just about here, so it's a bit hard to tell how big the area is. It's not that big a backyard, but all this has got to be re-leveled out. So putting a deck in here, I'd like to see it raised up, sort of level with that. If it was a deck, then come there, and then you'd step down onto some paving through here. But it sort of limits the use of the area too a little bit. On a bigger property, you might do it, and plus decking's extra maintenance, and it's not exactly the cheapest thing compared to paving sometimes, especially if you're going to pave out all here too. You might be better off just concreting all this and having the paving run all the way out in a nice big area, all flat in one level. So there's a tendency to deck those areas, but in this case I'm suggesting against it. So you've got these drains to deal with here. These drains here are subsurface drainage, so they're silt pits. They'll be cut off and capped. So it's basically an agricultural aggie pipe running through here to collect subsurface water, and so water won't run into those. So if we do drainage, we'll be tapping into the storm water through here and over there. And all this backyard needs a lot of excavation if it's going to get right down, so we have to level the whole thing out, and yeah, it's quite a lot of dirt to come out if you want to get a nice level backyard. And have to put a retaining wall along the back too. So we'll go to the next picture, and there's a better picture of the photo of the back. You can see there's this sort of grade of height here, and then it drops down quite fast. It's a bit hard to tell you, but it's quite almost maybe 700 mil difference between about this level here and this sort of level there. So ideally is dig all this out almost as close to the fence as we can, put a retaining wall about a metre out from this fence, turn that into garden, paths down here, and maybe lawn area there, a central tree, maybe a bit of garden over on that side there. So this little retaining wall next door, so this property seems to be higher than the neighbouring property. It's also a double story, so you might have to do something there too, depending on how the fence is going. And then finally the sideway here, and this will all be paved, I'd say. Yeah, and the fence is going to probably line up roughly with this. I'd say somewhere between there is the boundary. And there's somewhere they put this slab here for hot water service and air conditioning. It's probably too low, and a common thing that happens nowadays is that they're put in as part of the contract of the house, and the hot water service and the air conditioner usually find that they're too low. So if you can, just a general tip is to see if they can get them to put them up high, so the air conditioners can mount on brackets on walls nowadays. That's a good way of doing it. And the hot water service, maybe just get some pavers put there, but preferably if you could get all this concreted first or paved, and then put your hot water service in on top of that. It's just a neater finish at the end of the day. You can see next door they've just got another little slab here. Yeah, it's difficult to time it all. You want to get your building built, and then the hot water's part of that, and you still haven't got your paving done. Hot water services, they aren't too hard to actually just remove, concrete underneath, and then just put them back in again. A plumber should really only charge you maybe $200 to depending who you know. Yeah, look, $300 I'd say they should be able to come in, remove it. Even a good concreter should actually be able to just remove that and not touch anything, concrete that, and then the plumber comes along and reinstalls that, and it should be a pretty straightforward job, because usually even sometimes I've reinstalled them and managed to still get it connecting up to the original heights, because it's just depending on the pipes change. But yeah, they can do it pretty quickly. It's usually about no more than an hour for a plumber to reinstall that, as long as it's all with, you know, reasonably close and nothing major. And I think it's really something worth doing. So that's that. And yeah, I don't think there's anything else to show. Just look through them. That's the back. That's looking from the other direction. So yeah, also saying there's a spa sort of will sit here. The grade of the land seems to come back towards the bottom of the page here, and it's quite deep on the back there, so it's less to dig out through there. And as it goes in further, it's going to get a lot more as that hill goes down. And yeah, so the next one, photo. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the drawing that I made. So so that's the drawing I made. I'm not the neatest of writers. Actually, I've got it the wrong way around. So left. So that looks better. So you can see when this is yeah, much better way of having it. So because I couldn't fit it all on the one page, I probably could have. I just started in the wrong spot. I should have probably started down the front here and worked that way. But I know what all this means, thankfully. Even if you might not, but you'll start to get the gist of it as I go along. So this little measurement here, it's either 706 or 700. My messy writing again. I'd say it's a 700. I don't usually work within the millimeter, so everything's around 5 or they're close to, and it's not something you would really write down. So I know that deductively that's going to be 706. So all we have to do is look back at these photos. So if we'll open up the front one again. So we've got two photos here open, and there's the front. So this one here is 700 on there, and that's this one here from there to there, 700 mil wide. And all these follow suit as they go along. So what we do is we've got that there. I've also got the piece of paper in front of me, so I'm going to use that a little bit, probably more than opening up the image and swapping between GardenCAD. So here's our GardenCAD. Again, these videos aren't about how to use GardenCAD per se. It's just about getting things around GardenCAD using them. You know, like getting a Mudmap onto the page. So we're just going to, well, we've got the poly tracking on, so we can just do that down here. Poly tracking is a very handy tool. Like snap and object snap on. I look at, and then it's snapping to 0 or 180 here. And that was at 700. So 700. There's our line there. So that's our starting point. Now, I believe in most of them, GardenCAD, the instructor sort of tells us to put it on 0, 0. I just randomly start anyway, generally myself, but I think it's a good practice to get into, to be a bit more professional. So it's sort of like your main datum point, I suppose, or, you know, you get all your bearings from there, if ever need be. So that's our first bit of wall. this. Now here, there's actually a little return on the garage. I like to draw it in. You can sort of see it just a little bit goes back in. I haven't actually put that into the drawing, which isn't unusual. I usually do that, but I'm pretty familiar with all this now, and I know that that's going to be about 150 millimeters. So I'm quite happy. I'm going to just put it in myself at 150 millimeters. So go back to GardenCAD. Which means we'll have to add. We don't have to add. We just have to put that a little bit on the other side there. So add it to that wall. And I'll just show you what I mean. So if you look at that, you see if the wall started there, usually that is whatever it is in the plan, and you have to add that little section in there. It's easy to work out. So we have the line tool, and we have got snapping that. So we go right click, snap overrides. No, we'll exit that. Right click, drafting aids, object snap, select all. Okay, back to the tool, that one there, and we type in our 150 in the command line, enter. Have a quick look at the measurement. I love that one. Or this one, and that's 4775. Back to there. Click on the screen, it's back to there. So 4775, enter. We'll put a little one. We'll get back to here, zoom out. Back to 150, enter. So we've got the line tool. What tends to happen if you go outside GardenCAD and you come back, or it goes at save thing, it just goes to the cursor and you just click into the screen and you see that it returns instantly that line. But I've forgotten, what was that measurement? 1205, 1205 there, and then the little return on that wing wall was 250. Enter. And this is how quick it is. It gets done pretty quickly. So the next bit, I did have a bit of confusion about this. So you can see this here. I've written 12. I think I've written 1205 there, and this is why I was saying scaling is important, because if you do write that and you think that's an 8 there, instead of a 1205, you think it's 1285. You can sort of work out that each millimeter is a 100 mil, and then it's gone over 10 squares, so there's a meter, and it's another 200 mil, so it's about 2 squares. It couldn't be 8 because 8 would be almost near this line here. So it's safe to say that that is a 1205, I believe. So we'll go back to GardenCAD. Okay, so I've got to save this, and I haven't saved it. I did have a place where I was saving it. Yeah. Okay, with job Win 10. Okay, new jobs Win 10. So I upgraded my PC, put my video card in it, and put an SSD drive in it, and I installed Windows 10, and I upgraded to GardenCAD Plus. It's one of the first times I'm using GardenCAD Plus. I was using the old version for a long time before this, and so I did all that, and then I've installed it all, and I've created this new folder for my new jobs in Windows 10. Now I should run it in 2016 or something, but I've done a couple of little things there. So this one here, all right. Mudmap V2. I think that makes sense. Okay, and then we had a 1205 here. And then the next bit was this photo. Got a 475. And there's no real need to actually keep going line tool, time tool. Just type direct the mouse roughly to where it's got to get, as long as it polar tracks onto, because everything's going to be right angles here. You're just turning left or right as you go around. There's no curves. There's nothing much to work out. Just polar track to 0, or 90 degrees or whatever it is on each of these. 0, 270. 0 in this case is west or east, I should say. And then this one here is just coming up. What was that number? 2170. Back on there. 210. This one. 1540. The door I've actually written is 1100. I'm not worried about that. I'm just going to go 1540. Sometimes the doors are important, especially if you've got to line something up. People want a bit of symmetry. In this case, the door's asymmetrical. It's sort of a little bit offset here. So, and then on this one we've got 2280. I would say that's correct actually. 1, 2, yep, 2280. I really got to get better at handwriting. Some people, I know what I'm talking about, and other people do too. So 840 here, 840 followed by 1340. 840, 1340. I think I've got too much stuff open on the computer, so Okay, the next one's 1580. I've actually made a little on that. So this one comes like 1340, but I didn't have to put this little recess in here, but there's a little sort of windowsill here. But you have a look, I don't know if we'll see it in the house, but you can see just in this area here, see it just rebates there. I mean, you don't have to put it in. It doesn't take long to draw it in either. So, yeah. Alright, okay, so we've got 1580 and 140. Two, 135. If you have a look at my drawing, you can see I've been a bit average there. What I've written there, it's a bit hard to tell. It actually says, I'm pretty sure it says 240. I also think I'm right there because that's a little wing wall and it wouldn't be no more thicker than two skin sort of bricks there. So we're just going to put 240 there. And that 365 actually refers to how far this wall returns before this main wall continues on. Then you can see probably it's about 400. So you would draw a 365 in as about roughly 400 or 4 mil squares, or 4 1 mil squares. So we're going to 240 and 365. Enter. And 365. Enter. Alright, so now at this point I ran out of paper and I was I was running out of paper. So what I did is I essentially measured from here all the way back to the back corner of the house. So if I go here, you'll see where is it? There it is. Right, so I measured from this corner here, that wall there, all the way back. You can see that cursor. So from there, I measured all the way to that internal corner there on that wall. So all I did is just measured it and written the number down. I didn't draw the line, and then from there I just turned it around and started the backyard drawing as a separate piece. So as long as you got that number, you should be pretty right. You can do it that way. It's probably, again, it's best to just draw the whole thing around, and that's why maybe an A3 is best, or just plan. If you've got an A4, do a bit more planning before you start your drawing, like I didn't. And yeah, so go back to Garden CAD. Oh, actually we've got to go to the drawing, which is this one here, and you see that number there. It's 7,600 and plus 6,820, because I only had an 8 meter tape. By the time it gets to about 7.6 meters, it's then all the tape doesn't really want to come out any further, and at that point you've got a good chance of just breaking the return spring on them, which happens quite a lot. So what we'll do is just go to the calculator. Clear. Tape. So this is another thing. I use this Soft Free Calc. It's a lot better than the one that comes with Windows. You can pretty much expand it to any size you want. Is one good feature. In the old Windows that used to be handy. I think the new one does that anyway now. This is Soft Free Calc. This is you're gonna get the first version. That's the free one if you want this free one. And the main thing I like about it is that it has this tape. So it's a calc Free Calc tape. That's what it's called. And so all your equations just keep following and they just stay there, so you can go back to them quite easily without having to jot them down. So 700 plus 20. I could have just drawn the lines, a 7600 line and then a 6820 line and saved the time. But yeah, I get to see the calculator anyway, which I think is a pretty good calculator. So it's 14,420. So we'll go back to the Garden CAD. This, and the line's still there. So we go 14,420, and it's becoming an interesting skyline. You could say. So I've drawn the other bit of the plan here. Let's zoom out. Keep forgetting which button moves from going from one program to another. One button does one thing and the other one does another. So I'm trying to move it around. It doesn't do it. I'm using the other button, the middle mouse button usually. So what I've written here. Okay, so what I've got there, that's that corner there. So this corner here, I actually started in the middle of the page here and realised I'm not going to have enough room. So I started down here and you can see this is 3710. So we go back to these photos. So that's that corner there. And 3710 goes back into this internal corner here, and then we just keep following around as we do. So I'll put that in now. So what have I got? So I'll go back to here. 3710. Zoom in a bit more. 3710 and a 4205. 4205. Yeah, writing's terrible. 3710. And 4705. And then across that back wall, we go back to the drawing, and I've written 6355, I believe. We'll soon know if it's wrong, if the building doesn't meet up around the other side. And there's always a little chance of that, because I mean, give or take 5 mil. I'm measuring pretty accurately, so it should come around all right. 6355. The photo. Mouse button. Okay, so what have I got there? I've got image, rotate right. There, have a look. Okay, so I've got some weird numbers there. I think what I've got here is 5165 and 4660, and they're supposed to be joined together. Now I had 1680 and 1475 there. I think the 1475 is the width of the actual, like back of the garage door, and then the 1680 goes right out to the boundary. But we'll soon find out. So let's just add these together, and you can see that previous measurement stays there. That makes a pretty handy little calculator for your desktop. 9825. Again, and we've got 1475. Let's zoom out. So anything else? 1475. No, so yeah, I've got a bit slack there. Written it down. Assumed I'll just know it later. This is easy error to make. You get becoming a bit complacent. Yeah, no worries. I'll remember that measurement later. You know, but probably pays to be a lot better than I've done here. So it's probably a good illustration of why you should get the scale, write a bit of detail in. I shouldn't put that number there. I should have back the other way. I should have started lower on the page, turned that around, and it would have all fitted in nicely, and there would be less room for error. So at the moment we're just sort of kind of guessing whether if it's the right number, hoping it's the right number. There's only 2 numbers there, so it should be right. And let's see how we go. So we've got the 1475. So if we run that straight down there, well, it's not going to fit. So it's not lining up with this front wall. So that makes you wonder. There must be something wrong there. All right, so we go to tools and the distance. We can have a look at what that distance is out by. So it's 390 millimeters. Okay, so go back to here. We've got a 1680. So we might just draw. So if we just go straight up a line. So draw off there, 1680. And we just follow that line down. Okay, so we end up there instead. But that means we're still out. So, so that distance now. Okay, that's 185 millimeters. Right, I think I know what the problem is. And if we have a look, we can see the front of the house here. This goes right up against this garage wall here. So this house is built right up next to this house. If we go stuff over here, and if we go around to here, oh, and there we have it. So the house on this side isn't built up as close to there. So that would be almost 240 millimeters. I'd say I've measured to the edge of the door is that 14 mark, that 1465. It's about 900, so it's 240 there. It's 1140, 13, yeah, a bit there and a bit there. You're probably almost exactly like I'm saying at 1450 or whatever it is there. And then I've probably measured the full measurement there. The reason I've done that is so I can line the path up to this edge here. So if there is garden bed down this sideway, let me zoom out, it'll probably follow from this line straight down, a little bit of garden through where the in front of the fence, and then that would be all concrete on this side here, and that would sort of yeah, it'd be a nice little garden bed down there, the width of this pillar column here. So that's probably what I've done there. I'd say pretty sure that's what I've done, and the 1680 comes out there, and then the difference why that doesn't quite reach there is because that front wall is different to this back wall. So this garage, you'll find that's a little wing wall like on the other side of the house, that just for presentation, like the part of the facade on the house to make it look pretty. And yeah, so looks like we didn't make a mistake, but we struggled there for a bit, and that's why it's important to write this down and take some photos too. So if I hadn't taken these photos, I wouldn't know that this didn't meet up the same way there. I'd be scratching my head as to whether or not it was the same measurements. But that can also be helpful if you do measure here, and then maybe get the client to send you a copy of the house plans too, and then you can compare those two. But altogether, drawing the house as a mud map, and then getting the client to send out some taking the photos, and then get the client to send out the original plan. You've got 3 to compare against, and that can be pretty helpful. Here I don't have that plan, but yeah. So it looks like we've solved that problem. So what we'll do is we'll leave that line there, and we'll work out those two measurements. So we've got 1680 minus 1475. Okay, so we've got 205 mil there. So still doesn't quite make much sense. 1475. I think I've worked it out. Okay, so if we go back to these photos, that is the entrance to. Okay, I thought maybe it was the entrance to there. Maybe the entrance is a little laundry door there. Well, whatever it is, it seems like I'll have to confirm that for sure. But it seems like the 1680 is the correct measurement, and I'm not sure why I've written the 1475. Yeah, which is kind of strange. Maybe maybe there still is a mistake, and the 1680 is to this wall here, the neighbouring property. 1475 is to there, and there's still quite that big error of probably 200-300 mil. So at the moment it says 180 mil, because that gap there would have to be. It's almost a standard brick, I'd say. So that's at least 240. We've got 180 for 1680. What is it? 205. Down onto the other bit, and then what did I say? That's 185 mil. So yeah, it's probably, that is the 1680. So we're only out. We've gone around the whole house. Said we're out by I'd say in total, it could be out, the job going around probably be out about, that's one brick width, so about 65 millimeters. Somewhere along the line we've lost 65, added 65 mil, but in the context of a whole landscape job, in areas and that, it's marginal. It's really tiny. So yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned by that, and I'm not. So I'm going to essentially add that, what was that other number there, 205. So go back to line, add that to, we'll just go like that anyway, but that would be 205. And we can trim those. I don't want to trim, we're joining there, we want to trim. This one too, and what we can do here is we can draw a line again and make it 230 to there, because that's about the size of the wing wall, and then that comes back. For some reason, I'm not sure what it is in GardenCAD Plus, but it won't it won't snap. So when it's polar tracking, it snaps on this polar tracking grid, no problem, but when I get out to a line, it will no longer snap while it's following that line. It's kind of annoying. I'm sure there's a way to fix that. And maybe there's two kind of snaps that are conflicting with each other or something. But I mean, it's pretty accurate if I just do that, but I prefer the snap, so I'll just go past it, and we'll just use that clean up tool, trim tool, and yeah, that's all done. Now what you could do there is grab the whole thing. That's the footprint of the house, and I'm used to going to join. I think this joins here. I'm just going to go draw. I'm sure I used to say join there. Oh no, sorry, right click then join, and that's it. So that's one unit. And the next thing we've got to do, let's look at this plan. Let's look at the plan, and it's got. We're trying to find out. I'm going to just rotate right. I'm just going to find out now. Actually, I'm going to rotate again. Options. Okay, so I'm going to find out these boundaries on this house. So we've got the house itself is down. What I've done is I've taken this zoom cancel on it. I've got this side mouse button that I keep accidentally clicking, and it's a bit annoying. I know I've gone the wrong way again. Take left. Take a finger off that mouse button. And okay, so that's the front yard. There's the driveway. And we've got to find out this boundary here. So we've got this retaining wall here in the front. You can see that that's there. And we've got to find out what all this property sits in relation to the actual, so the house, where it sits in relation, the footprint of the house in relation to the property boundaries. And we've done that bit of guesswork, and I don't think it's not too bad. So what we've got there is 6565 from the corner here straight down to there. Now we're just going to go 90 degrees right angle straight down from there to there, and we're just going to assume that that's the boundary. If we look at the photo, you can see this pit here. There's a fault line there in the concrete, and then just cross over. Fault line usually is an indicator of the boundary, because that will sit. There'll usually be a surveyor's peg there. I'm going to go back. Wrong one. There's usually a surveyor's peg there when they would have done the crossovers. The concrete has come in and developing there, and they would have put that right where that is, and that looks like it should line up directly with this gap here in the properties. And that's what we're going to do, because we haven't really got much other choice at this stage. So I'll go back here. Line tool. What was that measurement? It was 6565. And we're going to draw from the corner there, snap onto that. Did I say 6565? 6565. Enter. And there we have a bit of the boundary. That should be sort of your starting point to continue right around. So with that retaining wall, let's have a look at what I've done there. We've drawn. So what I've done is I've written 3540 from there to there. So I've got the custom to hold and tape roughly where, because I didn't know that fault line is 100% square with this corner of the house here. Like, it doesn't come down exactly at right angles to it, 90 degrees. I've just assumed it was there, so that what I'm saying is that the drive entrance is 3540. So I measure from that fault line, sort of making a 345 here, a right angle triangle, to try and work out where the actual that point is in relation to the house here. I've just assumed that that's that fault line. I'm not going to spend the time doing that, and it's pretty safe to assume that. It looks about right, and that's what I'm going to go with. So from that point there, I've measured out to this retaining wall. So you can see here. So from there straight down there, and then I've measured from there to this retaining wall edge, 3540. So I'm going to put that in. 3540, and that's pretty much the driveway entrance. If you wanted to, you could possibly draw the crossover in. I'm not going to do that. No need to really. And then we've got the 300 here. That's how wide that wall is. That's the thickness of the wall. But I think I made a mistake here, because that is how wide it is. But in the photo, you can see that's actually a little wing wall. So it actually goes back maybe even about, maybe even a metre. But I'd say it's about 800 to there. I'll have to confirm that. I'm just going to say 800 in this, and then we'll work it out. So there's that there, 800, and we'll go 300 back this way because it's the thickness of the wall. So that means that would be, the return would be 500 there, and then this, we'll save that, and we'll just run that out to there for now. Okay, so what we're going to do there, I think what I've got here is I've written 13,346. That's the, I think that's the total width of the property from there all the way down to there. I don't think it would be 16 meters wide at the front, so I'm just going to assume that that's what that is. That's, I might have taken the, what I'm saying is I might have taken the measurement from there instead of taking it from there, but I think I took that whole measurement first, and then I took that one afterwards. I should have probably just taken that one and then measured that whole retaining wall. So what I'll do is put in the 13,346. We'll soon find out if it looks right. 13,346, and that's to there. And if we just run that up there a little bit, I think we're right, because I might have actually written that down, but yeah, okay, so I haven't written that down, but I know for a fact that that's not very wide there, according to the boundary. I didn't actually measure it because we couldn't measure it because there was no boundary there to start with. We were just referencing off this wall here. I don't think it's out that far. Yeah, again, there's not much to measure off on that bit. Maybe go this way. They're out of order. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's only about a 1.2 wide there on that. So what do we got there? Just put the tools distance measure from here. So about 1051, and that would be about right, I reckon. We'll soon confirm that because I think I've got an email with that on there, and we'll find out. So this can be returned to that. Seems to be snapping right. If we wanted to do this one here and just return that to that corner there, it's probably wise as well. And then now I'm going to get out to the backyard. Now what I've done for the backyard is essentially not much different, just measured from this back wall to the back fence, and we've got that measurement here. Let's just zoom out. Okay, so I've got that, I think that's 5980, and I've got it written there 5980 as well. Again, my writing's a bit average, so you can do a point, or you can do a line. I think, you know, I use lines as points a lot of the time, so I'll just go like that. 5980, I believe. I'll double check that because I've got a bad habit of reading a number and then completely forgetting it as soon as I go look at it, but that's correct. So we'll go out this way, this will get one on the end. Just go out there. I'm going to press backspace while I was in the line tool. I've never done that before, it did something a bit weird. I should snap on the end, and we'll just go out there like that. And then this one here, get another line, and we'll go past that one. So we're going to trim them up in a minute. And another line, and that's to there, and then we can enter again. There's the edge of the house. Let's assume the boundary's on this one. Okay, so rather than obviously the fence is going to be there, but what we'll do is we'll just assume the boundary's there, snap that in like that. So now we're just going to go around. You can trim, or you can, I always prefer just to snap on and just bring it back like that with the snap tool. I find that a lot easier, and just as quick. I really like that. It doesn't take me too long to do that. So already there, we can delete this line, erase that, and we've still got to get a post in here. 1 meter out, we'll use the point tool this time. Well, actually, it's probably, again, it's easy to just use the line tool. Snap on the corner there, out there, escape, enter, enter, and out there. And so I didn't write down the measurement for this. So this pillar, let's have a look. We have the back of the house somewhere here. Wrong way. Okay, so that pillar there. Look at that, we've got 2 brick widths. Each of those bricks are at 230 mil. So that's 460. Mortar gap's about 10 mil. So you've got about 470 pillar right around there. And it's good to know measurements of products in buildings, so you can do things like that quickly. You know, the square, what the square size of a sheet of concrete mesh is, or the width of the storm water is 90 mil, or these are 230 standard, etc. And it's just handy things to know. So in this case, it's 470. We worked it out to. You can maybe make it 480 if you wanted to, give or take. So we can go. You can just we'll draw a line. So we can go 470. We're very lucky because everything's square here, and most houses are nowadays. And 471. We don't want that. 70, and then back to there. And we can just grab this shift. Hold that one there, zoom out, make sure nothing else is we're going to delete anything else, and erase, and then there's our pillar. So everything's ready to go for designing. So you've gone from the Mudmap here, which is a pretty average Mudmap, but the principle's there. Get some graph paper, put it in the millimeters, make sure you do a bit more planning before you start drawing it so everything fits nicely. While you're there, what I've done here is I've sort of just talked to the client and I've said, so how do you feel about how this driveway is going to go in? It's a little bit of a tricky one, this driveway. Would you like to curve? So we curve it like that, and would you like to curve back in there? So I just roughly jotted down some notes. He wanted to sort of, on this big wall here, I was saying maybe a bit of artwork, but he said he wouldn't mind a feature tree against this big white wall. You can see it here, this wall here, so that could be a feature there. And there's a bit of contention about this tap here at the front and how it's sitting and where it is. It's a bit of a nuisance. You'd like it around the side there, but nothing. We don't want to go getting people to remove the meters if we don't have to. So we might have to come up with something for that. And probably just incorporate the garden bed and some plants for some mass planting. Just keep the amount of species down, but mass plant them. So no lawn, but things they don't have to really look after too much. But should look good in a mass plant. So we might do that like here. So maybe do some coming onto some sort of obtuse sort of angle or something like that to reflect the sort of house, the contemporary design of the house and that. So there's many ideas, but what I might do is I might just do a video of me designing all the paving and that, and how it's all going to go in. So have another look. So we'll just do a quick little bit here. So this is principle here. So this is we're going to start there, and this is very rough. Sort of what I might do is just go about a third of the way, and that might go there. Escape that. We get another one in. So we're going to have a path along the front here. So what I might do, draw a line. I'll just go straight out. So we're going to have a meter path at the front. So 1000. It gives us our marker. And then I'll just go line again. I'll smash that over into there. And I might just go a line again that way. And that gives us some parameters to work in. I'll go to the tool here, and we're going to pretty much force to curve it from there. I'll go about midway there, sort of roughly on a 40, not quite 45, somewhere about a third of the way in, and it just gives us that nicer curve, and that's what we're looking for there. So I'm going to smash that one out there, back to there. Or you can do in this doesn't seem to want to join exactly where I want it to do. We'll go to there for now. We'll see if it snaps in now. Oh, there it goes. So come back from it, save that. So you can see the drawings coming together very quickly. We can get rid of this one. Erase. And I'm not sure how to approach this section here, because I'd like to put something against the fence to screen it, but it's only a very narrow opening here as well. So I don't think that's probably part of a bit of a design fault here, having this bit of wing wall here, which you can see in the photo. Well, there it is there. You can see it sticking out there. It might be a little bit of a design fault in part of the house. So it's sort of at the front, it makes it look a bit more modern and angular, and these little rebates and stuff like that to give it a bit of interest, because it definitely looks a bit better than a lot of the standard McMansions you see, which are just square at the front. It's got a bit of Frank Lloyd Wright sort of thing going on here about it. Anyway. But what's happened is because they put this little wing wall to achieve that, they seem to have narrowed the sideway a bit, and in the landscaping side of things here, it's not a big deal, but it's sort of narrowed that pathway there so to get a decent path flowing through. So we'll just play around with it for a second. So I don't know if that's right. And you can line that up. We'll just go to there. We'll just chuck some square lines in, see what it looks like, and we might round a few things off. It's always a good place to start. Is just go square, and then work back from there. So what you might do is just go draw a line, and so we can fit a little garden bed in. So we're there, 500, and then we went this way. So if we had a 500 garden bed against that fence there, you can see how narrow this walkway is. Tools, distance, it's 500 essentially, so it's just way too small. You're really going to need a gate about 800 or 900 you're going to need. So at this point you're essentially just making that a whole thing gate, because it's the only access to the sideway of the house. I'd probably rather it in my own house have that wider, so that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. So there's not much there we can do to achieve garden bed there and then still have that as a usable walkway. I might have to think about that a little bit, so I'm going to delete that line. At the moment we're just going to say that it's I'm just going to keep it the way it is. You might get a little 200 one in there. Yeah, you might be able to do something like that. So depending on the way the gate's going to open in, we're going to have it open that way, because otherwise, yeah, I'm going to open, post out here, open that way would be the way to go. And we might be able to just get a little bit of garden bed in if we just draw here. Go past that. I might just grab that. Too, because later on I'm going to join these together and I'll hatch that driveway to be one piece of random stone pattern to show the exposed aggregate, which would probably be what we're putting in. It seems to be the common, most favourite product for driveways, isn't it, nowadays? So yeah, that's pretty much what we're probably going to do. The square look might suit this house pretty well, because it is quite square at the front. Look at it. So yeah, I mean, you could make some jutting off parts around here. I'm just, you know, if you want to get really excited about it. So what have I got there? So that's the wall. That's where the gate would be, and we'll just say the paving stops there. We'll move that back to there, about midway. That's where the gate would be. Concrete links. What we're going to do is we're going to probably do more expensive concrete through here, which is the exposed aggregate, and then down the side we're just going to use a stipple effect charcoal concrete just to reduce costs a bit. It's quite a bit of area through here, and we might do the same for this side, and then just pave back here. And no need putting exposed aggregate down these sideways. I'm sometimes preferable to put something like Lilydale toppings or granitic sand or something down here, but some people don't like it. You know, if you've got wooden floors, you might drag a little bit of the gritty stuff inside, and it can frustrate people a lot. So yeah, I think that's about enough for this sort of little tutorial we've got going here. So we can see everything sort of taking shape, and I might make another video and we'll put all the other things in there. The steps here, for instance, now these don't line up, they're not meant to line up, so I was a bit worried about that. I was doing this plan a little bit earlier, and they don't line up, and they're not meant to line up, but you'd think they would. We're looking, you know, you look at this and you go, well, this obviously looks like a mistake from an aerial view, but it's just all part of the sort of asymmetry they've got going on with all these shapes. So this is a little bit taller than that. This is just recessed a little bit here, you can see it, and the door's offset inside, and this is offset on the house. It's quite a good way to go. This looks quite good. So yeah, just sometimes if you don't take photos and you're drawing that up, you think, well, why doesn't that line up? Because we're all looking for sort of order when we're doing things like that. That doesn't seem to make sense, but it does actually make sense. Yeah, so there's your plan. We could possibly rotate that so it's easier for printing. So it looks like it's going to be better if we go like that, and we rotate, and we hope it snaps nicely. There we go, so we don't want it at a weird angle. And yeah, although it's a bit harder to work like that, I'm probably going to turn it back the other way and work on it. I like working north sort of thing, and then later on when I go to print it, I'll probably do that later. That just feels more natural working on that particular property that way, because that's the way I viewed it when I went there. I don't know if there's much else I can add. So we've gone from, probably explaining stuff again, the Mudmap here. I drew up on the house, and I've brought it straight into the GardenCAD, just by copying the numbers over and going around, and there we have it. And yeah, alright, that's it. Till next time. Okay, so I've finally finished that plan from the Mudmap, and this is what I came up with. I was going to make a video of me actually doing this plan, this design, but it's just going to go too long. I mean, I'll probably spend a couple of hours just thinking of things and coming up with stuff on this in between doing other things. So just to go through it, so I've got the exposed aggregate here. I've put a little raster I've inserted for that there. I've suggested one plant here, Lamandra tannica. Most of these plants are just placeholders. There's been no real discussion about what type of planting will go in, but I'm all for putting the natives in there. So we've got mostly natives, you know, like that sort of bush type plants. So these grasses are nice, and I've got a grass tree here. I would have probably either, or I could have put a sort of conifer there. I think you saw the photos earlier. I've got these cotton steel boxes, proposed cotton steel boxes. See all these squares here? That's what I'm proposing. I put these rocks in, so these are quite large rocks, kind of just sitting there. So this one will be in the middle of there, and I'm going to put one here. This is going to act as double as a seat. So this will be all gravel, and somewhere you can sit there. Possibly could put one there in this little pocket, and you can just sort of sit on that rock. So we're going to find a rock that you know, that's the right, you know, it's flat and can act as a seat, of course. Bluestone paving there, cotton steel. This is just eucalyptus silver princess here. It's a mini eucalypt. Should be interesting in a cotton steel box maybe. This again is just a placeholder. Could be a ficofoliar even we put in there. So one of the orange, the smaller eucalypts with the orange flowers you see in the street tree plantings, pretty good. This is a grafted grevillea, and so is that one. And this is another acacia cognata grafted and standard in one of these pots here. These cotton steel pots. It's going to have a little rectangular cotton steel pot with some kangaroo paws going through there. These are all sort of liriopes, just small ones. So this will be all sort of not gravel, sort of granitic sand underneath there with a few plants in it. We don't want it to detract too much from the boxes, so we just want to have the granitic sand going up there, and maybe just a few plants in that sand. Similar thing here. This will be granitic sand with a few these Dioides grandiflora there. I've got some of the birches here with the tannicas, and I've got another Acacia cognata grafted on there within one of these boxes, and these will be Carex frosted curls or something like that underneath. They're just placeholders essentially. It's not set in stone, and that's how I would like to sort of see it done like that. Maybe a bit of fine tuning is required. I'm pretty sure actually a bit of fine tuning would be required, but yeah, this is probably quite costly to do with all the cotton steel, and there's quite a lot of plants in it, so I'm finding people that's the last thing they want to spend money on is plants and landscaping. They'd rather buy furniture. Is the general feeling I get. So stippled concrete down the sideway here. This is plain as to keep costs down, so just we throw a hardener on that, and then we've got more on this side. So this is out of sight, out of mind areas. The stippled concrete is pretty nice, really. It does the job, and in charcoal it looks pretty good. Yeah, so for those areas you don't want to be running expensive bluestone up through here or anything like that. It's just a waste of money. But in your main area, this will all be bluestone. I actually rotated this plan because it was going the other way before we wanted to seen, and I actually had this hatch the other way. For some reason, the hatch didn't want to rotate with the plan. So when I turned it around, I just sort of grabbed it and turned it around. So I sort of I did that, and then I tried to place it in, but it was running the wrong way. So this pattern's actually supposed to run the other way, because yeah, it makes more sense that way. But anyway, they'll work it out. I'm not going to rehatch it all. Just a little garden bed here. We could eliminate that. I haven't got it. I just decided to put one there. I'm not too sure why. I just wanted to put one there, I guess. I think this is proposed spa bath here. It's about 2.6 by 2.6. Yeah, you probably could get rid of that to just get this spa bath, a little bit extra room, give it more room over here because the poster's right here. And then these are just placeholders. These could be ornamental pears. I probably wouldn't use ornamental pears, but yeah, that's something people would do. I've actually got a picture here, so I've got proposing this retaining wall, and that's the retaining wall we done a while back in another job. And in this one here, we've got these succulents, we've got aloes and this dragon trees, which aren't too bad. I can't remember the name of those things. They're quite a nice plant, quite a nice mixture. I would have put more stuff in, but yeah, the client didn't want overflowing, I guess. So, but that still looks pretty good. Yeah, so they could do that there, but they probably want trees. I think 'cause this sort of north is this way. I'd probably rather be having some big trees in there for some protection in the summer. So yeah, that's about it really. So we've got the bluestone, that's the kind of bluestone we'd be putting in here. We've got cork and steel, so these are just, I've just made these shapes up. I don't, you can get this made up. A lot of sheet metal places will actually, you just got to get the cork and steel, and yeah, good sheet metal place should be able to do that pretty reasonable cost. Yeah, you know, they're going to be cheap, but yeah, you should be able to get it done pretty reasonably. In this case, installation is pretty straightforward. It's just going to be a case of sitting it on the ground and filling it with soil. So there's no, you know, it shouldn't be any expensive installation of welding on site or anything like that. If they're made in the factory, then because they're a certain size, you should be able to pick them up in a truck pretty easily, even sit them in each other. That one in that one, that one in that one. Yeah, I think they wouldn't be, it shouldn't be too hard to work with. So that's about it for that one. What we're going to do, we're going to print this out and see what it looks like on a PDF. Print. So pick all up to there. So there. So I use I download Qt PDF Writer. In the old version, I just always run Qt PDF Writer to print anything off as a PDF. It's pretty handy. I'm just used to using it. I made this as A2. I made this as A2 size. And I sort of just tell the customer if they want to have a look at it, take it down to Officeworks and get it printed off as A2. And sometimes it even pays to, when you did the first Mudmap, to send that as a blank, and then they can maybe use it to draft their ideas on. So maybe if they went and got those printed off at A4 or something, and then they can just draft some ideas on there by hand, and then maybe you can work with that. That could be helpful. This is something to think about. So let's do this A2. Okay. Now I would usually go fit to paper. It scales it automatically, but then I usually just click off the fit to paper. What I'll do is I'll just change this to a nice even number, rounding up, not down, because you round down, you're gonna you might expand the picture outside the frame of the A2. So I'll just go 55 here, and that way you scale. If you do write the scaling, it should be nice and neat. And that's it. Press OK. Should pop up any second. So this should be coming up any second. We'll just get out of this. Alright, so we're gonna. Oh, okay, so here it is. We're going to save it as just test, and save it away. I've got it down here. I got rid of Adobe Photoshop, not Adobe Photoshop. I got rid of Adobe PDF Viewer because it's a bit. I think it's a bit buggy, to be honest. And I've found this one called Foxit Reader. It's comes highly recommended on the web, and it seemed to work okay. It's a little bit getting used to, but yeah, I had Adobe was crashing a little bit on my other computer, and this one it would always seem like it was loading or something. So where the icon, my mouse button is, it was always spinning and loading. So I just sort of tried this, and I haven't had that problem since I've gone over to this. So this might be worth looking at. So it looks a bit better on a clean sheet. I put the scale in there from the blocks. It looks kind of neat. It's a quick one. I could put a frame on it and a a letterhead sort of thing, whatever you call that, your little bar, a few details and the customer details. I don't really want to put the customer details in this. This is just for the video mostly, and the customer will get it eventually. But yeah, so I'm just not used to the commands on this, so we can move. How do we zoom? Zoom. So we can just do it that way and just move it around. So zoom in and see. So it's looking pretty clean. So yeah, everything's looking pretty good there. This is probably should have been, I don't know if it's brought to front or not. Either way, they'll get the idea. So that's it. And then you just email that off to the client with your quote, and that's about it. Alright. Till next time.